Warning, warning, graphic scenes ahead. Have you been the victim of a senseless shop burning? Did you burn your fingers by grabbing hot pieces of metal? Did you use gloves that had holes in them? And your hands came out like this? Point is if you're using these gloves and they have holes in them and you burned your fingers, it means that you were doing the same thing that you're not supposed to be doing, that somebody else was doing before you came along when they burned these holes in the gloves. So that you don't end up with horrible third-degree burns like this, we're going to make ourselves a set of shop pliers, kind of like blacksmith tongs. So this is what we're going to make. It's not that hard. We're going to start out with some 3/4 by 3/16 flat bar, and I'll walk you through this and you'll see that it doesn't take that long. All right, so we have our flat bar. We need to make 2 pieces that are 11 inches. That's this many. If I need 2, that's this many. 1, 2. Now we're going to take them over to the shear and we're going to shadunk these pieces apart, and then I'll show you where to mark them and drill them. Make sure that you are wearing safety glasses and following all of the shop safety precautions when you're using any of the machines in here. On the shear, don't get your fingers in there, it will take them off. And hopefully when you have your safety glasses on, you are half as handsome as I am. All right, I'm gonna stick this in to the old first mark. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll get that lined up. And now I'm gonna do the old shadunky dunk. Shadunky. Shadunky. All right, we're back, and I want to start taking a look at kind of how these go together so you can understand the basic processes. So we are going to go from this to this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out where our hole needs to be. You can see here that I tried it in that position, and it didn't quite work. So where the hole is in relation to where the bend starts makes a big difference in your ability to close it. We're going to heat this with the oxygen acetylene torch, and we'll twist it 90 degrees. It's very important that both pieces twist the same way. So when you put your piece in, if you twist clockwise, make sure that the second one goes clockwise. Otherwise, when you flip it, it won't allow them to. So we'll get the measurement for this. Then we'll go to the torch and we'll heat this up and we'll turn it 90 degrees. You'll do the same thing on each one. We'll have the holes drilled. And then what we did right here is we just heated along this line, just literally pulled it over just a little bit. Just needs to be a couple degrees to get this outer arch. And then we're going to go to, you can do this on the plasma cutter, you can do it with a handheld plasma cutter, the torch. We did it on the portable bandsaw. I've got a little jig set up and we just ran this inner taper. There's a lot of things you can do to get creative. You could paint these and laser engrave it. We just did the little plastic dip. You could do the inserts on the outer edge, for your fingers if you wanted to make it look better, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll get those measurements and we'll be back. So I have our pieces marked. The holes, the ones with the cross, are 3 3/4 inch back. And then these were 2 3/4 forward. So 2.75 and then 3.75. Yes, that's correct. So we're using 1/4 inch solid steel round bar, nothing fancy. I'm going to go ahead and take these to the drill press. You're going to want to clamp them down. I like to use a backing guard so that if they do try to spin, they can't go anywhere. And I want you to safely drill through both of these pieces, and then we'll be back. All right, I've got my 1/4 inch drill bit. You could actually go one size over. That'll be fine. I'm going to go ahead and start drilling this. You're going to need some cutting oil to keep that bit lubricated. Make sure you've got it clamped, and make sure you've got it where it can't fly around and fit your hands to wrist. Take your time, don't force the bit, let the machine do the work. If you're having a problem, you probably got a bad bit. All right, we are at our oxygen and acetylene rig. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the acetylene on, and that's just gonna be a 1/4 turn, no more. I'm gonna turn the oxygen on, and it doesn't need to be that much either. So 1 full turn max. We're going to get this set up, but first I wanted to show you, I've got my 2 pieces drilled, and then I'm going to set this in a vise and I'm going to go down. I'm going to keep that line up a little bit. It's going to be proud of the edge, and we'll heat it and turn it. The next thing I want to show you is I'm just using a pipe wrench to twist this. Don't twist it cold, it will snap the metal. But do you see how the mark is really up by about 1 inch, so that the end of my bend is going to be the same as where the end of those jaws are. So keep that in mind. If you put that down too low, you're going to end up bending the circle and it won't work. Okay, you've got red is fuel, which is acetylene, green is oxygen. It even says O for oxygen and F for fuel. So I've got my oxygen turned on about 1 click, and I'm barely going to turn this, right? So maybe 1/8 of a turn. Once I do that, I'm going to use my sparker and get that going. And I'm gently going to turn that acetylene dial up. And then I'm going to let some oxygen in out of this top valve. So I just barely turned it. And I'm looking for those little white teeth at the end. Make sure that you've got a partner with you as a fire watch. And remember that everything needs to have a 30-minute period so that we don't have any hidden sparks. These sparks can go really far. The sparks shouldn't be an issue, but just to be safe. So you can see where I'm bending this, and you can see the color. Don't get it too hot or it'll just melt. All right, so that's good. It took about 20 seconds. I'm going to turn the fuel off first, and then I'm going to turn the oxygen off on the top. Now, I'm going to go clockwise. But you can see the twist. Be careful. You need a set of pliers. Don't use gloves, right? Because that's how you get holes in them. So we're going to put this in our little bucket of water to get it cool. And we'll start with the second one. Again, I'm using my little turning tool, my pipe wrench, as my guide. I got my striker. Barely crack that acetylene open. And then I'll let the oxygen in on the top. Hopefully this is a little bit better than the last footage. Didn't realize I wasn't really aiming. You can see the little pieces of black stuff floating. It's just unburned acetylene. Acetylene is a pretty dirty burning gas, but once you add oxygen to it, it gets really, really hot. So oxygen is really doing the work. For oxygen to burn, it needs a fuel source. And acetylene is a good, cheap fuel source, but it's pretty dangerous. So that's what we're looking at. Let me get this extra hot since I'm trying to film. Here we go. Same thing, make sure you're going the right direction. There it is. All right, my pieces are cooled down. I got them out of the water. And we're gonna look at how they pivot.